Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, "It's Not a Swimming Pool. Not mine but my dad's, RIP." Subplot. He passed away 4 years ago at the age of 64. Like his father, grandfather and great-grandfather. All down the paternal line, all firstborn sons. All of different things. When I get to 64 I might starting shitting bricks. Anyway, to the MC. Many years ago, it became law that all swimming pools needed to be fenced separately. The fact we lived in a fully fenced property with a gate was not enough. The swimming pool needed its own fence. Dad ignored the rule as we didn't really use the pool anymore. Approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet wide and 6 feet deep in the shape of a kidney. I swam at nationals a couple of times and my brother was able to bob along pretty well. We didn't have young children come to the house. None of our friends had children. 0 point in fencing it. A couple of years after it became law, the council started doing inspections to make sure that pools were fenced. The guy was a typical council employee. Strutting around in his fiefdom, flexing his muscle and threatening fines and court etc. Dad got some quotes to have it fenced which were pretty expensive as the hard paving surrounding the pool was curved and the fence couldn't be a typical wooden fence as a wood doesn't follow curved contours easily and b. The council bylaw wouldn't allow it as little kids, who were non-existent at our house, could climb the fence using the crossmember to get a footing. So Dad kinda ignored the issue for a while until the council guy came back and again started threatening again and gave Dad 30 days, or something like that, to remedy the issue and sort out the swimming pool. Dad started researching and came up with a solution. The council guy came back 31 days later and was furious that the pool wasn't fenced. Dad took him out to the pool. The approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet wide and 6 feet deep in the shape of a kidney. He showed the council guy the dozen or so fish and water lilies that now occupied the pool, thus turning it into a fish pond. A pond that was the same size and depth as the swimming pool it used to be, which under the law did not and still doesn't need to be fenced. Game, set, match. Edit. I can see, and in some ways agree that it was a bit irresponsible. But as mentioned the property itself was fully fenced and electric gates at the top of the drive. No kids came to the house. I'm pretty sure if we did have visitors or it was still used as a swimming pool when my brother and I had kids fencing would have happened. Next one is titled, "At Least I'm Not Stupid." I just saw yesterday one of the funniest and greatest petty revenge on a rude customer at the corner store. I was not part of this, just a witness. Cast. Rude man, Kathy, not real name. The cashier and the cashier's trainer. I went to the corner store to pick up some milk. I was third in line and the man at the till was being rude to Kathy. See, Kathy has Down syndrome but can do most tasks anyone else can. Sometimes a bit slower, but there are things she is good at. Packing bags was like watching a professional Tetris player getting everything in its place. The till is where she was a bit slower. Numbers always threw her off. Rude guy was paying for some gas, cigarettes and a couple of monster drinks. Kathy scanned the monsters but it didn't come up with the sale price. It was supposed to be 2 for a certain price, but if you ring them separately for some reason it rang them up at the usual price each. Her trainer was teaching her how to correct it, so she said to rude guy, "I will only be a second. Sorry for the mix-up." Now I don't know if the rude guy was having a bad day or was just a total a-hole, but his next words stopped everyone in listening distance to stop and stare. Well, if they didn't hire R-word people things just might get done right. Kathy looked at him still with a huge smile as if the comment was never made. The mistake was fixed and she gave him the correct total. Here is where Kathy got her MC. Rude guy kept putting his card in the reader but it never worked. He said, "Your machine is broken. It won't read my card. It must be as R-word as you are." He tried another 2 times and was about to rant more when Kathy looked him square in the face and said these beautiful words. I may be R-word and the machine may be R-word, but at least we aren't stupid. Who tries to use their Medicare card to pay for things? Too bad you can't say that. That is when he looked and sure enough it was the wrong card. Using his bank card he paid and started leaving when Kathy called behind him. If you lost your car in the parking lot I can help you find it. After all I am just R-word and not stupid. I can imagine that would have cost most people their job, but I think Kathy will come out of this unscathed. Perhaps a talking to but nothing more. At least I hope not. She is on till next time I go. Next one is titled, Don't Call Me Mommy? Okay. Apparently this happened when I was about 3 years old, but my mother has held it over my head for the last 20 years. My mom was on the phone with my grandmother and I wanted to get her attention for something. I did what any 3-year-old would do and tugged on her leg and called, Mommy, out to her. She gave me an annoyed look and kept on with her conversation. Whatever it was I needed it must have been really important and I kept at it. After a few more tries, she eventually shouted at me, Stop calling me Mommy. From that moment on, my first little malicious compliance switch went off in my head, and I only called her Mom or Mother from then on. She was always heartbroken for years after this and often brought it up. I was her only kid and it embarrassed her to no end being called Mother in front of other people when I was so young. And to rub salt into the wound, I still call my father, Daddy, to this day. Next one is titled, My job is to answer the phone at all times? Alright, I'll answer it. A couple years ago, I worked for a real estate company as the manager of its co-living division. Think of it as a living arrangement where the company leases the apartment from the property owner, remodels it and then subleases to multiple tenants by the room. It's legal in my country. The owner of the company, let's call him Dick, last name Face, had a tendency to misguide company funds. As such, he was constantly late on rent payments to the owners. One night, he calls me and tells me that, as manager, my responsibilities now include coordinating rent payments. I think nothing of it because it's a simple enough task and it doesn't take much time. What he didn't tell me was that he called every single property owner and told them that he was too busy so I was now in charge of paying their rent, and that if it was late, they should talk to me. Fast forward a couple of weeks and Mr. Face is still misguiding company funds, so there isn't any money for paying rent, even though I know for a fact we're generating enough revenue. Owners are constantly calling me during weekends and nights, so I don't answer the phone because it's not working hours. Dick calls me on a weekend and he's very upset. It seems that owners can't reach me at their convenience so instead they're calling him. He tells me it's my job to answer the phone every single time and tell them what's going on with the rent payment, so I say, okay sure, sorry, and we hang up. Enter malicious compliance. Next time an owner calls me up, he nicely asks, Hey, I just wanted to know what's going on with my rent payment, can you please give me a date or any info? And I pretty much say, I'm sorry sir, we had the money in the account and my boss took it for unknown reasons. Unfortunately, I don't know when and if that money will be back in the account, so I suggest you ask him directly. I do the same for about 5 days with every owner that calls me as I now make sure to answer every single call that I get, even if it's outside working hours. By next weekend, my boss has a voicemail inbox full of angry property owners asking what he's doing with the money he's supposed to pay them. Apparently, he was using it to remodel his own apartment and buy a new car for his wife, and threatening to sue the company because of what I told them. He was livid, suspended me without pay, to which I replied with my resignation, and the company went under a few months later, partly because COVID and co-living don't get along very well. Bonus note. I later found out that one of the owners showed up at his house literally wielding a big butt stick. When the doorman refused to let him in, he yelled on the street until neighbors came out and the police showed up. Dick tried to blame the whole thing on me, even telling owners that I had ran away with their money, but pretty much no one believed him. The best part? He had promised to make me a partner but didn't. If he had, then I would have been liable for all this, but he was a selfish dick and got what he deserved. Oh, and before anyone tells me I should have sued or called the police on him, Bear in mind this is in a third world country, so there's literally no point. Next one is titled, Only Doing What Was Asked. Outside my main job, I work casually at a leisure center, pools, gym, sauna, steam and spa. And due to COVID we have restrictions on how many people can be in an area. Last time we had restrictions there was a booking system in place for the small areas such as the sauna, steam and spa, to ensure not too many people were in that area, and to maximize their use. This also meant that as staff we could easily track how long people had been in certain areas and ask them to please move on. People complained that they were restricted to only 1 hour per booking, so when feedback came in, the general response was to do away with the booking system. In regards to the ensuring access to the facilities, the response was that they are all adults and can regulate the usage fairly themselves. So we did. No bookings needed, only the allowance of people per space remains as dictated by the government. Yesterday was our first day open with unlimited time in the center. We regularly had to go to the sauna and steam room to remove extra people, signs on the door of only 4 as they are small rooms. The complaints started. The ones complaining were the same ones that complained about the booking system. And by complain, these are the type of people who don't talk to you. They yell at you. I don't think my mask could hide my shit-eating grin as I explained to them, but we did what you asked and got rid of the booking system, but you guys said you could regulate it yourself. Next one is titled, Get Rid of That Ladder. Was just reading a post and it reminded me of a story my dad told me. He worked in a factory and they had gotten a new boss. The boss was walking through the section he was responsible for and saw a ladder leaning against some machinery. He told an employee to get rid of it. The employee tried to say something and the boss told him that he said to get rid of it and he did not want to hear any excuses. Employee says okay and removed the ladder. Not long later the line broke down. The boss was freaking out because it was his ass if it did not get restarted soon. He talked to the ladder employee and asked if he knew what was wrong. He said yes and explained what the problem was. The boss told him to fix it and he said he couldn't. The problem was on machinery near the roof and he did not have a ladder. Next one is titled, Customer Wants to Leave and Take the Recipe with Them. So recently a customer at my work told us that they were no longer going to use us to manufacture their products for them. We felt this was quite out of the blue, as they had used us for 40 years without any problems. We got over this, however they then asked us to give them the recipe for their product so they could take it to a competitor to make. Now for context, when they started using us in the 70s, 80s they provided us with their recipe to make their product the right texture, firmness, and look just how they wanted it. Over the years we've spent time and money finding new chemicals when certain ones have been discontinued, altering the mix of chemicals so that the products are still how they want them, and developing the recipe further to make it more efficient and provide better results. The way we were making their products now is completely different to how we were at the start. Because of this, my boss was unhappy with what they were asking of us. But, complying with their request, he gave them the recipe to their products, the original recipe that is. It's fair to say they're not that happy that they're going to have to spend their time and money to update it as we have over the last 40 years. Edit. It's not food, lol, but I'm loving the guesses. Edit to be clearer. We make X, we've made X for over 100 years and, expect for small orders, it's always to customer specification. For example, a matte blue color, with a soft texture. We don't have contracts to supply X to customers, they just order it like you would order something online. This X customer had come to us 40 years ago and asked to get X from us, and had given a recipe for how they had gotten it previously from someone else. Over the years they kept coming back to us for X, but this recipe was no longer used. We still made X to their specification, but with different chemicals, dyes, pigments, and processes. Everyone was happy. Now that they're going to another business, they wanted to know exactly how we make X for them. We didn't want to give this up, and instead gave them back the recipe they gave us 40 years ago and said that was all they'd get, as everything after was us. Because X is our main product, If we'd told the X customer how we made X for them, they could give it to a competitor who could figure out how we make all of our X, and run us out of business. Last one is titled, "You want to question the contribution to my own research? Okay, let's waste everybody's time. This is probably minor, but I got some satisfaction out of this. Scene. I have my PhD in biochemistry, newly graduated, and interviewing for positions in industry. As normal, I give a seminar talk to the group, remote, with PowerPoint, which includes the hiring manager. Audience has all PhDs in similar fields, with the most divergent being an individual with a PhD in engineering. At the end, I ask if anybody has any questions and that I would be more than happy to elaborate. One chimes in and says, for the purpose of the interview, can you tell me what part of the study you contributed to? I was confused, and so were others on his team based on their facial expressions, and then it hit me that he was questioning the contribution to my own research. This is highly unusual. BTW, it was 100%. I was responsible for planning, hypothesis, execution, data analysis, everything. If we had collaborators involved, I mentioned them by name and their institution in the talk as well as in the acknowledgements. Okay, so cue malicious compliance. I asked calmly, giving him the benefit of the doubt, where do you want me to start? Thinking perhaps, he wanted to know for a specific part. He goes, from the beginning. I have 49 slides. So I started from the beginning and discussed what percent of the work I did, which was 100%. I went through every slide as he wanted, and I quickly saw how he regretted asking because it quickly became apparent. I did a lot more work than what I was conveying in my 45-minute seminar talk. This was inevitably a complete waste of time because I already gave the talk. By the end, everyone in his group looked annoyed at him, while I sat there pleasantly, because it is not a good look for him and his company that he questioned my own research. Later on, he apologized. But I just, lol, I can't. Edit. For added clarification, the individual asked me to go slide by slide. That was not my idea. I had asked where to begin to avoid the possibility, but no, he really wanted me to do that, which is highly unusual. Thanks for listening.